Welcome to the Ethnomed podcast, a community voice at the clinic. My name is Dr. Duncan Reed, a physician in the International Medicine Clinic at Harborview Medical Center and medical director of Ethnomed, a web resource for providers and patients with information for cross-cultural care. We are continuing our interview series called Provider Pulse, where we elevate diverse voices from across healthcare fields to learn the paths people took to their current roles in healthcare and how their cross-cultural experiences have helped them provide more informed care to diverse patients. Whether you are an undergraduate student considering a career in healthcare, a practicing health professional, or a member of the community, these conversations are for you.
I always wanted to be a doctor, and more specifically, an OBGYN. My mom, she passed away when I was 8 years old. So that's where it was all planted in me. Nobody around me was a doctor. When I got into my undergrad, that's when everything hit and everything changed. I just felt like I wasn't prepared. I was always thinking medicine, but I just felt like it's so out of reach. I felt like I wasn't ready. I was struggling a lot in my sciences. I was struggling a lot. Just issues of exam anxiety, presentation anxiety, all of that.
On today's episode, we are featuring a discussion with Rawnaq Behnam. She received her MPH at UC San Diego and works there as a researcher. She discusses her experience as a refugee from Iraq, the challenges of adapting to schooling in a new country and a new language, and the important role of mentorship in helping her navigate her way to a master's degree in public health.
I am Rawnaq Behnam. I just recently graduated from my master's in public health. I did my undergraduate degree in global health and human rights and migration, and went on to doing my public health. I obtained both of my degrees from UC San Diego. So I was born and raised in Iraq. My family and I fled, and I think it was 2012, we fled to Turkey due to the political unrest that my dad had experienced. We stayed in Istanbul for 2 years, and then we were resettled here in the United States in 2014, directly to San Diego, California. I am still living there, and I plan to stay there. I was born in Baghdad. My whole family was born in Baghdad, but towards the end of the political unrest that was going on, we moved to northern Iraq. It's a border town called Zakhum, very northern of Iraq. It's a very small town. I went to school there. So when I left, I was 12 or 13. Northern Iraq is like a Kurdistan, so it's considered a different province than the rest of Iraq. So even in the schools I attended, I was studying everything in Kurdish, which was the main language spoken there. And at home, we would speak Chaldean because that's my ethnic background. I'm Chaldean. So at home, I'd be speaking Chaldean and then learning Kurdish at school, and then Arabic would be like TV shows. And so that's how I speak different languages as well.
Wow, so how many languages do you speak?
So in total, 5. My school is all in Kurdish, Arabic. I actually got better in Arabic when I got here because I started using it more often for interpretation as well. Kurdish, Arabic, Chaldean, it's native mother or native language. Turkish, just conversational Turkish because I lived there for 2 years. And then, of course, English.
What profession were your parents?
None of them have completed school. I'm a first person in my immediate family to even finish high school. So none of my siblings finished even middle school after 6th grade in elementary. The education system in Iraq is a little bit different. So after 6th grade, they would go to middle school. And that's when my oldest 2 sisters stopped because of all the issues that we know that happened.
Did you have a sense of what you wanted to do when you grew up, when you were in Iraq or Turkey?
Not really, but I think if you want to connect it to what I want to do now, yes, I always wanted to be a doctor, and more specifically, an OBGYN. It goes back to a very personal story related to my mom. She passed away when I was 8 years old. So that's where it was all planted in me. Nobody around me was a doctor.
Was it in some sort of medical situation?
So it was actually the only OBGYN we had in town where she came and examined my mom. And I was just seeing that scene in front of me. Back then, I think I was 7 years old. So just seeing it there in front of me, and it was just, again, like planted in me.
You lost your mother right after that.
Yeah. So I think a few months after that.
I mean, that must be a defining time of your life.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you came to the US. And how was that?
So at 8, that happened. A lot of other changes happened in my life within a year. Like my sisters got married, and I also have a disabled brother. That 1 year, everything happened so fast. And I was also taking care of my brother. My dad was just working. He was just a regular employee there. After 4 years, then we were displaced to Turkey. So in these very crucial developmental years, I have 2 sisters and just 1 brother. I'm the youngest.
We'll step back. How was Turkey?
Turkey, I think because of what has happened, and I think a lot of people actually relate to this, my family was being very protective of me. So in Turkey, I didn't go to school. So, education gap. So that when I got here, that had a big, big impact on me. So in Turkey, I was just waiting. The resettlement process took us 2 years. For some people, it's taking them 14 years. People are spending, on average, like 10 years in refugee camps or 14 years. So we were, I think, lucky and fortunate in Turkey. Things were moving faster than everywhere else in the world back then. This was, I'm talking 2012. So we were lucky that it took us 2 years. So nobody was able to work, and I was only myself, my brother, my stepmom, and my father. And my father is older. Even if they had the chance to work or find a job, they were older. I was just sitting home for 2 years, just doing nothing.
Was it frustrating?
Of course, because I was always in school. I always knew, I have to be good to be a doctor. So I was always all A, type A student and everything. So it was really frustrating for me because I immediately knew that was going to set me back. And I wanted to go to school actually there because there were Caritas. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but they provide English language courses for refugees that are waiting for their resettlement process. All of my friends were going. I wanted to go and just be in the courses and just meet friends and stuff. So my family was very protective of me, and you're not going alone and things like that. So until this day, that frustrates me all the time. I was always questioning, why was everyone going and I'm not? I just want to learn English. We ultimately wanted to resettle in Canada or US because that's where we had family. But again, this was uncertain. So I always knew that I have to learn English because when I go there, I want to jump immediately right into school, and that was impossible.
So you got the news that you're going to US. How was that?
I actually just, at that age, I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted for all of this chaos to end and start my life, basically, because I did not want to lose. I always knew I did not want to repeat any cycles. I wanted to do something different than everyone else in my family. Not only immediate family, but cousins and relatives as well. My parents were not happy about it because they were we're older, so we're not going to be able to work in the US. And they would hear, they don't provide assistance because they would hear these stories from other relatives that have gone through the resettlement process before. So I think for me, I was okay with it. I think we're the family. They even at one point decided to they want to go back, but then things changed and they were saying how are you going to go back to the chaos you came from? And it's just not safe anymore.
Do you remember how your transition to school was in San Diego?
When we first came here, I took an exam. They wanted to see where my English level was. I don't know what score I got. I wasn't even interested because no one was even explaining to me okay, you're taking this exam because 1, 2, 3. But of course, after I grew, I learned. So I took that exam and I was placed as a freshman in high school. I was supposed to be placed as a sophomore, so 10th grade because of my age. But for some reason on paperwork, it was 9th grade, which worked out really good for me because I was able to gather credit and get all the classes I needed to take to get into university. So when I first started, I was placed in newcomers classes in my school. Because they had a lot of newcomers, they had a little bit more resources at the school to help those kind of students like me. So newcomers classes basically had more support, which means they had interpreters along with the teacher. So That was my first semester. So I just slowly started learning. I'm like, okay, my goal is going to be to learn English. So I would go to the library. We have these interpreters and assistants in the library to assist you with homework and everything. So I would go and I would do extra practice questions or whatever it was, like math problems or anything. Then I would go home and listen to songs and put the titles on as well. And that's how I just started practicing English. And in second year, I was moved to honors classes. So basically, I kept improving my level, and then I got into advanced placement classes. And once I was transitioned to these classes, I was then able to learn, okay, like this is what you need to do to get into college and so on. But of course, it was challenging in high school because, like I said, for a lot of cultural reasons as well, I wasn't allowed to participate in extra curricular activity, like staying after school for a sport or after school organizations and club, because my parents would not let me do that. And after I tried educating them on the system and like, you need to do these volunteering things to get, that's when they became lenient a little bit. So that's how I started building up my career into university.
How was the social side of things? Were you feeling isolated? Did you feel like you had friends during that time?
I think I was just fortunate because the high school closest to me, I would say like 60% was newcomers. So it was a lot of people like me. I think actually that really helped me because we were sharing a lot of similar experiences and so on in high school. And even actually a second year of my high school, I formed this organization called Hope. And I was basically started teaching newcomers, okay, these are the English levels. If your English class has red books or blue books or orange books, that means you're at this level. I would just start teaching them small things like that.
So you went through high school and it sounds like you had a good sense of what you need to do. So you're already thinking about college.
Yes.
So this is like this defining factor for you.
Yes.
And then, so how did that transition go, or how did getting into college go?
At our school, we had a program called AVID, and AVID basically helped students navigate the college application process in our area. I think that was very helpful for me. In terms of the whole process itself, it was very challenging, but this program made it easier. In high school, I found mentors that also helped me a lot. And it was just a matter of where do I want to apply to, because I'm not allowed to move out. So I had to make sure that there was a school that was near me. The application process was okay because of that class. They go step by step. They help you proofread your personal statements and all of that. I know in some other schools that this is not offered. Again, we were lucky because at the school I was at, because they had a lot of newcomers. They still did not have a lot of resources. Not a lot of AP advanced placement classes were offered. So I got into like 10 colleges. But of course, UC San Diego was the closest to me. So that was my number one choice. And I decided to go there.
And how was your experience there? Was it difficult adjusting to college?
I would say the hardest experience in my life. I think high school was okay because there was this support, there was this community. When I got into my undergrad, that's when everything hit and everything changed. I would say obtaining master's was easier for me than my undergrad because it was just this huge jump from high school. I just felt like I wasn't prepared enough. First of all, because of the education gap and speaking these different languages, it is good, but sometimes, again, that's like the brain of being multilingual. I didn't do good in my sciences. I think a lot of it came from not being able to navigate, like, okay, how do I learn best? Am I a visual person? Do I learn best from just talking to you or things like that? Those simple things that I didn't really have and didn't have the skills. I think what made it more challenging is because I had to work. I was working a full-time job. Keep in mind that I wasn't able to move out to stay near the campus. I was living with parents, living home, and driving every day to my campus when I would have 8 a.m. classes. I would have to wake up at 5 because of traffic. When I had exam days, of course, that was more challenging. So working full-time, going back and forth full-time. So I had to finish classes and then run back to where I used to live because that's where my job was. So given that, I'd not have time to, for example, go to the library and sit and do my homework or seek tutors, go to tutoring sessions, and because I had to go to work right after.
What work were you doing?
So multiple jobs. I started off working in a grocery store, Arabic or Middle Eastern grocery store. This was back in 2017. I was trying to apply and trying to find jobs. I think it was really challenging because nobody wants to hire students because they want people with flexible schedules. So that's how I started. My second job was a research assistant at UC San Diego. It is a big research institution. So I was really lucky, or whatever coincidence happened really got me into research. It was a week before I started my freshman year in college. Because I'm very proactive, I just like to be certain with my plans because I want to make sure I get to my destination. I went to my global health department, advising department, and I was just talking to my cousin back in Iraq, and I was talking to her over the phone. I was talking in Arabic. So there was a lady sitting in the same waiting area, and she was just looking at me. So I know she wanted to talk to me. So we started talking. She's like, I'm doing this research with Syrian refugee women. I am an OBGYN here. I need someone that speaks Arabic to conduct the interviews with him. I read it, speak it, and write it, and I speak multiple other languages. And that's how we connected. And I started working with her just as an interpreter, just interpreting for her during the qualitative interviews on a project she was working on. And after that, I was hired as a part-time research assistant. And then from that project, moved on to another project. So that's how I got into research, which I know for other students, this is very, very challenging to get into research.
Did things get easier at a certain point?
Well, only during COVID, because everything was online. I would say even then during COVID, I was working still full-time. At one point before COVID, my RA research assistant position ended because the project concluded. Because I have to work, I have to pay bills, help my family and everything. So I had to immediately find another job. I was working as a cashier at a car wash somewhere near the area. I have worked so many jobs because, transitioning and everything. I think things got better after obtaining my bachelor's and getting to my master's, which that was also challenging, but I felt like in my master's, I was more confident.
Were you thinking medicine at that time?
I was always thinking medicine, but I just felt like it's so out of reach. I felt like I wasn't ready. I was struggling a lot in my sciences. I was struggling a lot. Even my other courses, like in global health, just issues of exam anxiety, presentation anxiety, all of that. I never knew these were things that you can get help for. So all of my undergrad, I was struggling and juggling all these things. I never knew any of these things. So I just knew that I needed more time to navigate the MCAT and just get a little bit more mentorship. I always wanted to do medicine. I knew for sure I always want to do research, even as a physician. So I was like, okay, MPH, Masters in Public Health, is going to give me the research training, and it's going to give me more time to think about what I want to do about the MCAT because I didn't get any resources or any help with that.
And how was the MPH? Was that an extension of kind of work you were doing before, or did you start over with a new project?
Actually, I started all over. I started all over. When I applied for school, I was lucky enough to meet a mentor who is leading a research center called Displacement and Health Research Center under the School of Public Health at UC San Diego. She mentored me all throughout the master's program. I think that's what made it a little bit more bearable because I had her support. She's an assistant professor there as well. So I was more able to navigate that program.
And how did you find the research? Was it overall a more positive experience than undergrad?
It was more positive. Again, I just had more support within the research center from the mentor. I built my thesis project basically as an extension to her pilot clinical trial that she was conducting at the time I met her. So that made it easier. And she is from Middle Eastern as well. She understood. I understood her struggles. I think that's why it made it more smooth. And I became her lab manager as well. So we became super close. And that's why the project was easier. And the other thing that made it easy is I received funding through the UC Global Health Institute. So I was able to perform a lot of tasks and do the interpretation and everything.
And what was the project that you were working on?
So because I always wanted to become an OBGYN, I wanted to combine in my interests, my goals, where I want to be ultimately go, and my mentor's interest in the work she was doing. And then I wanted to really study gestational hypertension management within refugee women in San Diego. But then when I came across the funding opportunity, okay, let me make it more global health and collect data along the migratory route. So I proposed this project to be conducted in Jordan, which is where a lot of women in San Diego were before resettlement. So I just felt like it was going to be really interesting to build the literature on that. My thesis title is Investigating Barriers to Managing Gestational Hypertension Among Syrian Refugee Women.
And what are the plans now? Are you done?
No. My passion for women's health, advocacy, and everything is never going to stop. At the research center, I transitioned to a full-time clinical research coordinator and still being a lab manager. And then I'll be applying for medical school next cycle.
And do you know what you want to go into?
Of course. Yeah, I want to go into OBGYN.
It sounds like you identified a lot of people that were actually mentors in various capacities. And it sounds like in your MPH program, this is someone that could identify with you and that maybe you could identify with her as well.
Exactly.
And that had a huge impact.
100%. Yeah, I think that was one of the, like I said, it just made the program, the studies, everything kind of more bearable. And so I'm like, well, I'm not understanding this thing. And then she would explain it to, she is an MD, she's an epidemiologist by training, so she knows all the science. So I think that really, really helped me.
What advice do you have for people who are looking for mentors or someone that can help support them?
It's really hard because it, again, took me a very, very long time to find someone. I would say keep looking. I think networking really, really helped me. Networking and truly, truly trying to connect and learning about your mentors on a human level and truly trying to connect and just being present with whatever project you're working on. I think being present and truly listening. I would say networking has helped me the most. And it is hard, especially with underrepresented students. It's really hard to find mentors.
So it sounds like you're saying there's an important role to be played just based on representation.
Of course.
It sounds like you found someone you can identify with. You're so driven. How did you keep going through a lot of adversity? A lot of things that I think most people would have an incredibly hard time with. How did you keep going?
I think my passion for always advocating for women's health, I think people ask this question a lot of what makes you wake up or get out of bed every day? I think it's all the stories, all the experiences, all the issues, all the problems I hear from women and girls in my community and from girls like me. I think that's what keeps me going of we need to change it. I need to do something. This life is unfair. So we can't just give up. It's going to be always unfair, but we can't just give up. I think it's all the women and girls around me in the stories, and especially my childhood story, that's what's always kept me going. And it's still even with my research projects, that's what keeps me going, even though a lot of times I'm what am I doing? What's this project about? It's not making sense. Yeah.
I think you have a friend here who is in medical school right now. Mm-hmm. And how has that mentorship affected you?
I think it's just so reassuring. In the past 2 days, we've been just talking about just simple as, okay, what material to use study for the MCAT, as simple as that. We come from the same background and, I think it's just reassuring, like despite all the trauma, despite all the hardship, despite everything, I think just seeing somebody like an upperclassman or like just somebody else going through it, just that reassurance of like, it's okay, like it's going to happen, you're going to get there. I think that's what, at least out of this conference, that's what I got. This is what I will take back with me, actually. So just having that small reassurance of like, I went through it.
What advice would you have for someone who's in the middle of it? They're striving for big things, but how can they be a good mentor to someone else?
I think providing mentorship to others is actually, that's one of the other reasons that keeps me going. Like right now, I always say, what are we? Like, okay, I gained my MD. I want to be like a 50% clinician, 50% researcher. But what is it going to serve me if I don't give back? Or I think my way of giving back is by mentorship. So right now, the one thing I do is my social media, it's private. So it's only people that reach out to me. On my social media, a lot of students reach out to me because we are in a close community. So people refer students to me saying, she actually goes to UCSD in San Diego. And especially in my Chaldean community, not a lot of people are able to go there, whether it's because of grades, whether it's because of finances. My undergrad was really hard is because no one from that looked like me, same background, being Chaldean, was at UCSD. I would say I was the only one that year when I was a freshman. I only had one friend from high school, and that's it. So people refer younger students to me, whether she's doing research, she's at the research center. So what's the point of doing all the things we do if we don't give back? Whatever your way of giving back means or looks to you. Everyone is different. It's all about how you interpret your experiences. I think within the displaced communities, refugees, populations, they're still very affected by the experience and they're not even ready to talk about it. With me, because I want people to know, and especially students who are on this path and track, like it's really okay. I promise, like this is what has made you who you are today, and like just be proud. There's a lot of controversy around trauma and coming from trauma, and it's really hard to be open about it. And even within my own small circle, I think a lot of people like me still struggle to talk about their stories. But I think it's on us to reshape the narrative and inspire the next generations. And I think do it on a smaller scale, really do it on a small scale, just like on the small conversations you have. I think sharing these stories will really inspire others. And really, for me, it's really pulled me out of my darkest moments when I've heard from others, whether it was just like shared human experience of not anything related to displacement, the refugee experience, but other stuff, just like normal, like human to human, level, I would say.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We hope this episode has offered insights that help listeners better understand cross-cultural perspectives. In today's conversation, Rawnaq Behnam reflects on the importance of mentorship in helping her navigate schooling as a recently arrived refugee from Iraq, and the life experiences which inspired her to pursue a career in healthcare. We will be continuing our Provider Pulse series with more interviews featuring healthcare professionals whose life journeys have deepened their ability to deliver effective, culturally responsive care. Here's a preview from our guest on our next episode, Natalia Sarkisova.
I think I always was very interested in the medical field. I think the idea that was always presented to me was to just go and be a doctor. I just remember being very scared. I don't want to let my parents down because I think your parents come to this country for a reason. 9 times out of 10, it's for the kids. You watch them sacrifice their dreams, you watch them sacrifice their aspirations, and then it's like, okay, well, it's on me. I'm very grateful for female mentorship. They know what it's like to be a woman in this field. So it's really helpful to have that kind of support behind you. It's like knowing that you have somebody there. It's a very warm feeling. And then for me, it's like I want to be able to give that back as well.
Be sure to visit our website at ethnomed.org for additional resources. Also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at ethnomedUW and on LinkedIn. Thank you.